It's the Austro-Libertarian alphabet. Y is for youth indoctrination. Youth indoctrination begins early and subtly. Kids enter public school where the morality of tax-funded schooling is never once questioned. They are taught official state-approved histories that elevate founders with little critique, and they learn civics, but rarely, if ever, economics. From uniforms to anthems to pledges of allegiance, every ritual reinforces obedience, conformity, and statism. Students learn that the classroom belongs to the institution, and they are to behave like employees. They spend all day basically doing made-up clerical work, and teachers are constantly teaching to the test, the state standardized test. All the while, they're taught to parrot democratic rhetoric about how they're free and how the state exists to serve them. It's horrific. It's like someone being forced to say thank you while being beaten. People often compare schools with factories, but actually they're closer to prisons. Teachers are less like floor managers and more like prison guards since attendance isn't voluntary. It teaches that totalitarianism isn't wrong. Kids have to ask for permission for everything, including to leave to use the washroom. And when they get home, they still aren't free because they're expected to continue to study. In fact, there have been instances of schools trying to enforce their rules outside school grounds by punishing kids for things that didn't happen at school. Schools are also the only place most kids are likely to experience violence, which isn't that surprising when you just force people together who would never otherwise associate. Where else except in prisons or in the military are you forced to serve with strangers and comply in this way? And if kids do avoid this horrific place, parents can be fined for their truancy unless they can afford to homeschool them. So for both parents and the student, questioning authority is punished, not encouraged. When you see liberals in my comments conflate state and society, defend authority, or pretend freedom exists under coercion, remember, you can trace it back to these early teachings. If you're wondering how you get a Canadian liberal, this is how. People aren't born with these ideas that government is synonymous with community, that taxes are just part of civilization, and that coercion is okay and normal as long as it's democratic. Nor do they come from open debate. They come from authority, and they're taught to us with compulsory schooling. This is probably why liberals are so loathsome. In my view, the modern liberal is deserving of at least as much derision as anyone else involved. I dislike liberals more than any group. The politician and the bureaucrat simply act in response to their incentives. The progressive, in my personal view, is barely even rational. They're like children in the bodies of adults trained to defend the government as if it's their parents. The worst of them lash out because they harbor dreams of being policy advisors or close to power themselves. Police are a problem, but in a free society we would still have people who are security professionals and private guards, so there would still at least be operations that look superficially like policing. But there is no kind of need of any sort for a mindless collectivist drone that doesn't serve any function no matter how you squint and look at it. The cop might say he's just following orders and refuse to argue with you, but the liberal will actually stand there and outright deny your rights exist. They aren't just party to totalitarianism, they believe in it. The constant whining of these cowards complaining about entitlements does not add any value to society. They're so quick to deny abstracts like rights, yet they're the first to tell you what it means to be a good citizen or a good Canadian. Personally, I want to be free so that I don't have to associate with progressives. Anyways, that's a digression. Education should rest on choice, voluntary association, and family or community influence, not state compulsion. Kids need access to mentorships, apprenticeships, libraries, wikis, dialogue spaces, and to do self-directed projects, decentralized voluntary networks, and lessons that foster curiosity, independence, and critical thinking. True education encourages children to question what they're told, not just memorize it. Reject the notion that civic virtue emerges from civics class. Support systems where parents and students choose curricula, not the state, because that's not education, that's indoctrination. Why weren't you taught self-ownership in school? Think about that. Youth indoctrination means children are turned into statists before they can even defend themselves.